Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays.
Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday, 15th of October. I've got my coffee. Hope you've got yours. We'll get stuck into it today. But as we go along, if you are first time tuning in Wealth Coffee Chats, welcome along. If you haven't met me before, my name is Cash Shosted, here to represent the Property Management Group. That's who I am, 14 years in the industry. Been with the collective 6-star team for a little while now, and it's getting exciting each week, bringing you some insights, some stories, and hopefully, along with you guys, sharing some solutions as well. So I hope all is well with your portfolio and property management journey in that space. So today, team, bit of the arrears alarm, our early warning system for late payments. So love to get a bit of a shout out in the chat for anyone that's tuning in live this morning. Love to hear your arrears challenges if you've got one. Hopefully you don't, though. Hopefully there is no chatter in the in the box there in relation to any arrears, because that means all's going well and you've got the right systems and strategies in place. However, as you guys know, you look around the country and you look around all the investors in various locations, all the different property management theories and concepts and ways of doing things out there. And one thing strikes me is that 14 years later, we need to have an arrears alarm on at all times. I've certainly had experiences where, you go through an application process, everything looks well and good, but life gets in the way sometimes, job situations change, relationships, etc. And all of a sudden there's a financial strain on the renter. And that certainly means there's a domino effect, unfortunately, for the property manager in the work they need to do. And of course, you as the investor, we've got things to do, things to pay for, of course. So we certainly need to make sure we're on top of it. So today's warning shot is the arrears alarm. Morning to you, Josh. Welcome along. Great to have you on board. And we're going to get into it. So, team, as always, questions in the chat. Banter is allowed. The more you interact, the more energy it gives me, and we'll get along with today's conversation. So, as I said, the arrears alarm, what we're going to talk about today, what is arrears and why does it happen? And I was thinking about this, why does it continue to occur? Because like I say, team, this is something that trends occur and can come up in time. And so whilst you can't control it for the most part, one of the important things to do is to have some strategies in place. So why does it happen? Well, number one, behavior in humans. There are a lot of humans, not just in Australia, but around the world, that have a tendency and a bit of a trend to pay things late. Could be your phone bill, could be electricity bill, your gas bill, but certainly rent can be a knock-on effect. And if you think about it, this is why when we are vetting tenant applications, we are looking for a 30% income to rent ratio as a safety net to understand one's affordability level in the property. Because you can imagine if 50% of your income or more is going towards rent and housing and shelter for that matter, there can be some other pressures in your world when it comes to costs of living. And so, we just need to be very diligent on what that affordability rate might mean for the renter and then that knock-on effect for you as the investor. Because probably the number one thing most people miss is that affordability level. So behaviours of humans not always wanting to pay on time. Right, wanting their money in their pocket for whatever reason, could be forced or unforced. But certainly another reason why arrears occurs could be how your property manager's system is set up. It could be in terms of how that payment model is structured. Is it BPay? Is it direct debit? Is it a bank transfer? And therefore takes a little bit longer. There are certainly some really good systems out there that are instantaneous now with the transfer of funds, but certainly you need to be aware of what that looks like with your property manager. But I would say one of the big contributing items to, other than one's affordability, of course, is that when we approve applicants and tenants come to collect keys and they move into the property, the rent expectations and responsibility is not clearly explained to the new tenant. And so how can we expect someone to pay in a certain frequency if they don't quite understand what's actually expected of them? Now, it would be quite obvious to feel and think that if I move in today, the 15th of October, that rent is due today, of course. Generally speaking, you approve a tenant, they pay a 1, 2, maybe a month's rent deposit, depending on your location of your investment property, and that gets them paid up for that cycle. And so, what most people don't understand, property managers included for that matter, is that if I have a lease starting today on the 15th of October and my weekly rent is $700 a week and I am going to pay on a weekly cycle because that's what my lease has me obligated to do, that $700 a week takes me from today, the 15th of October, through to midnight Tuesday, the 21st of October. And therefore, every Wednesday moving forward, my rent is due, which should mean, Mr. Tenant, on a Tuesday before 3, 4 o'clock, provided you set up some recurring payments and have a set and forget system in place, the rent is going to be paid every Tuesday at 2 p.m. We're going to receive the money when it's due on the Wednesday. And guess what, Mr. Tenant? Your ledger is going to look immaculate in 12 months, 24 months time, whenever that may be, when you look to vacate and we are seeking, or you are seeking a rental reference from us. And that's going to work for a few reasons. One, the tenant gets an amazing reference, and we say ledger never lies. And so the next property manager or the next private landlord who manages themselves are going to look at that in a favorable way. The domino effect is that you, as the landlord, get paid frequently and consistently, which is awesome. And so there's less work for everyone involved. It's a happier tenancy and a more smooth outcome. So, like I say, most property management groups out there, team, do not understand or do not explain that rent expectation and obligation clearly and concisely on what is expected of the renter. And so if you're not sure what that onboarding process might look like with your property management team, wherever your property is located, then pick up the phone, have a conversation with them and find out, because that's one area of the journey where you can just nip it in the bud, so to speak, and get that problem solved in that space. So number one, you got to have a process outlined with the tenant. There's got to be some expectations, and they need to understand what happens when rent is paid late. It's really important, right? Really important. So a lot of groups will talk about, well, hey, listen, what is the arrears process, right? If you guys are interviewing agents out there, considering changing your agents, put this on your agenda. Mr. Property Manager, Miss Property Manager, talk to me about your rent arrears process. If and when my tenant, falls into arrears, what do you do? Now, as a property management group, there are some auto reminders we can set up, from a tech point of view, software point of view, that can obviously help support the property managers in their role. But at the same time, we've got to pick up the phone. We've got to communicate with the renter and find out what's going on. And I'm talking daily. I'm not talking, let's call them today and let's not call them for another week. That's not proactive. And I think as a landlord, that wouldn't be your expectation, right? In that space. So one of the things to identify with the property manager of choice team is, how do they deal with conflict? How do they deal with calling a renter and having that discussion in regards to rent being late? Because most part, tenants don't necessarily intend to pay rent late on purpose or with the intent to annoy you, or with the intent to have your mortgages delayed, etc. Life situations get in the way, and usually rent and housing is usually a knock-on effect on what must go first or what can get paid, 3 days later, 7 days later. And so we've got to communicate with the renter. We've got to actually understand why this behavior, why this trend has popped up, and then we can work with them on actually resolving the problem. And so if the property manager is unable or is uncomfortable to deal with conflict, to deal with that level of conversation, then you're going to find that you might have some more challenges with your property manager group and not just the renter. So now you've got twice the problem, and you've got to try and jump in and solve it all together, because guess what? On the 16th of every month, you've got to pay your loan, right? So understand the process that's outlined. Make sure you understand what the property manager's process when it comes to communication and how or what their appetite is for this type of conversation with the particular renter, because in some cases there can be some conflict, and they've got to understand how to deal with that, which is really important when it comes to training internally. Number 3, the point I want to make today. Now, regardless of where your property is, could be Queensland, could be Victoria, could be South Australia, each state and territory has legislation in place to say if the tenant doesn't pay rent at a certain time frame, you can issue a breach notice or a notice to leave, right? I'm going to use Queensland as an example today. But when your tenant is 7 days in arrears, on the 8th day, you can serve a breach notice. If that tenant does not rectify that breach notice, then on the 15th day, you can serve a notice to leave, and they have 7 days to vacate. Otherwise, you're applying to tribunal, etc., etc. Very similar in other states and territories. Check with your property managers. Now, the point I want to make about that is the legislation is there to provide a framework and to protect our landlords, you guys, right? Where I think a lot of landlords and property managers fall down on is this. They give in, team. They give in. They communicate with the tenant. They say, listen, if you don't pay your rent on day 8, you're getting a breach notice. Day 15, you're getting a notice to leave. And then guess what? Day 15 comes along, and then they don't send the notice, team. They don't send the notice because the renter says, oh, please, 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 one more day. Now, depending on circumstances, is going to determine how you deal with that and how you want to go about it. But in my experience, 14 years later, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Things can always be rescinded. If you send a breach notice on day 8 and they pay on day 10, that breach notice is deemed to be met and it's withdrawn, and life goes on, and we keep going forward. And hopefully they don't fall in arrears again. But if you say you're going to do something, team, no matter the relationship or how you feel, my recommendation after 14 years in the industry is make sure your property manager or yourself, if you're self-managing, you follow through on breach notices, because that is your leverage to get what you need, which obviously is for them to pay rent. So follow through. I see time and time again property managers and self-managing owners that let it go, and I can tell you it does not fix the problem. It may make you happy for a week, but it will come back in that space. And number 4, you actually circle right back around to the application process. Again, most people don't understand how to read ledgers. We always have a bit of a motto, like, the ledger never lies. And so if we've got an application and they've got 2 years of rental history and you're having a look at that ledger, you're going to find a bit of a pattern. You're going to identify what behaviours around payments look like for this particular tenancy. And if you can consistently see rent being paid 1-2 weeks late over a 12-24-month period, then I'm going to say more often than not, that trend is going to continue. There's an attitude and a bit of a, psychological thing around it where we tend to find this pattern continues unless you can sort of set the expectations nice and early. So always look for the ledger to show you a bit of a pattern and behavior around this. And that'll give you some clear guidelines on how this next tenancy might go if you approve that applicant. So in summary, we want to know how our property managers set expectations with new tenancies around rent, their obligations and the consequences if things don't go to plan. Understand, ask your property managers, what is that arrears process? What does that look like? Talk me through the steps. What do you do on day 3, day 5, day 7, etc. How you deal with conflict in those conversations in that space. Understand the legislation in your state or territory, of course. Your property managers will know that. Contact them if there's any clarity required in that space. Or you can go to the relevant bodies online. Of course, use ChatGPT and Google, Gemini. They'll tell you. And of course, focus on that application process. Pause for a moment. Really look at that ledger and understand what that pattern or behavior might look like. Really key things there, team, to make sure you put yourself in the best position you can when it comes to a smooth tenancy. So that's the arrears alarm for today. That's the early warning system I'm putting out there to the universe for everyone. And hopefully there's 1, 2, or 3 things you can take away in your conversations next time around when it comes to applications or, during that tenancy for you. So as always, signing off, Wealth Coffee Chats. I'm on time again, which is awesome. So as I say, always looking for topics and stories, team. Email below. Love to hear from you guys as always. And don't forget tomorrow, 8:10 Queensland time, 9:10, I think, down in the southern states. The financial planning team, I believe, will be back tomorrow. So tune in. Till then, bye for now.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6-Star team here at positivementor.com.au.